Hey friends, hope you're enjoying your holiday season. Hope it's going smoothly for you. I wanted to bring to you a build guide so that you guys, if you either got cash for the holidays or you're just looking to spend money around this time right now for a computer, we would have everything lined up for you. So this video today is going to cover a $1,000 budget, and that 1K of cash is going to cover everything from the entire tower to that's it. No monitor, no keyboard, nothing else. So let me know if you actually want us to cover that type of build, a $1,000 all-inclusive build, in the comments down below. But for today, $1,000 for the gaming PC, and then we'll talk about how it should perform and what you would get out of it. But before we do that, I need to let you know that today's video is brought to you by our holiday merch, my friends. I know that the holidays are almost gone, but if you want to pick it up for either the remainder of winter or even next holiday, because we're probably not going to do these designs again, check them out at the link in the video description. We've got the It Just Works Holiday Edition. We've got the Santa Got My Gaming PC at Walmart. I learned to build computers from The Verge. This sweater is ray traced, and all I want for Christmas is Papa Linus. And I know, my friends, that we're very close to the end of the year, so to give you a little extra incentive to pick up one of these shirts, you can use the coupon code JUSTWORKS. That's JUSTWROKS to save 10% off of any of your merch purchase from our store. 10% off Just Works. It's not It Just Works, Just Works. It Just Works is too long. So, you know, it just works. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Just works. So we actually have two different builds for you, one based on Intel CPU and one based on an AMD CPU. So whether you're Team Blue or Team Red, you can get your preference here, and that's all good. So, but there are some compromises that we have to make depending on which CPU we go for. And as far as the GPU, AMD not really in consideration, because actually we're looking at a higher tier of graphics cards for this build, and unfortunately the Vega 56 and 64 still aren't really priced as competitively as they need to be in order to fit in the $1,000 budget. So we're looking at NVIDIA here, but two different CPUs. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the AMD system first. So for the CPU, I went with the Ryzen 5 2600. It's coming in at $170. It has 6 cores, 12 threads. It's going to do everything that you need it to. Gaming is going to be mostly fine. You're going to be able to overclock it with the motherboard that we chose, and you could probably get it up to around 4 gigahertz, which combined with the graphics card we'll discuss in a bit is going to be more than enough for everything that you guys need to do while you're playing video games. You're not going to get the best experience out of it over, let's say, an 8700K that's running at 5 gigahertz, but the performance difference is going to be negligible, especially if you're not running anywhere in the neighborhood of 180 to 240 hertz on your monitor. 144 and below, Ryzen 5 2600 is going to be pretty dang decent. Then for the motherboard, we have the Asus Strix B450F Gaming. This is one of the best-selling ones on Newegg. It has a great aesthetic. It's going to overclock because that's what the B450 chipset does, and it seems like it's just a solid choice. Reviews are pretty decent on Newegg. $130 for this motherboard. It's not the cheapest B450 that you can find, but at the same time, it's going to wrap everything up into a nice RGB package, and who doesn't want that? But speaking of RGB package, let's talk about the RAM. We've got the Corsair Vengeance Pro RGB. It's a 16 gig kit at 3000 megahertz. Now, I chose this kit specifically for one, it's on sale for $130, which is not bad, especially when you compare it to other RAM kits that are non-RGB with the same capacity and speed. $130 for this is a steal for how gorgeous this RAM actually is. Then we got 2 sticks of 8 gigs each, because while 8 gigs would be the minimum for games at this point, 16 is really where you need it in order to play games and then also have things running in the background. 16 is a bare minimum in my mind, especially at this price point of $1,000. You can squeeze that price in here, $130. And then 3000 megahertz, because Ryzen definitely benefits from having faster RAM in dual channel. So everything about this RAM just screams yes. You're gonna have gorgeous looking RAM that's gonna be plenty fast and give you all the performance you need. Then for storage, I went with a Samsung 860 EVO 500 gig SSD. The reason I went with 500 gigs is because 240 is all right. You can have a couple games on there. 500 is usually more or less enough to get most of your major games that you're playing at that moment without having to shuffle it out every 1 to 2 months because you need to install a new game. 500 is plenty. It's coming in at $73. Samsung has great reliability in their SSDs. The 860 EVO is another one of their best budget ones. You're not going with NVMe, but you're also not paying the price premium that comes along with that. And then I did also add a 1 terabyte hard drive, the best-selling one that's on Newegg, the Seagate Barracuda 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM. It's $45. You can add some extra storage into your system to backlog things, photos, everything that you're not accessing on a daily basis can go to the 1 terabyte storage. Or if you don't need it, you can cut it all together because 500 gigs is enough for some people. Then for the graphics card, this is where we're getting into some good deals, especially around this time of year. So we chose the Asus Cerberus 1070 Ti. That's $360, a full $100 cheaper than what its MSRP actually is. And it's just a great graphics card. It's gonna run 1080p, no freaking problem. 1440p, it's gonna do pretty well. And then when you compare it to a Vega 64, that goes for about $400. Their Vega 64 would pull ahead here, but that $40 price premium actually would put us more over budget than I'm comfortable with. But if you want AMD, you want Vega, that's also an alternative. $400 for a Vega 64 is also a good price right now, especially with that being out. And it includes a game bundle of you get like some stuff for Fortnite and a coupon for Monster Hunter World, if that at all interests you. But Asus makes great graphics cards. The Cerberus is pretty plain looking, so it's not necessarily gonna clash with anything in your system except for that backplate. That backplate's a little excessive, but it's a good price graphics card, and it's going to do everything that you need it to. 1080p, close to 144 hertz in a lot of games, and with that Ryzen 5 2600, you're going to be smooth sailing there. So for the power supply, we went with the Seasonic 550 watt 80 plus gold semi-modular. It's going for $70. 550 watts is going to be more than plenty to power the 2600 and the 1070 Ti and get it right in that nice efficiency sweet spot range of actual power consumption. So this is a great deal. It's highly rated. It's one of the best sellers on Newegg, and it's gonna do you really well. And then for the case, this is subjective, but in its price range right now, $70, you get addressable RGB and tempered glass, and one of the best cases that I've ever personally built in at this price point. Anything that's cheaper than this is usually smaller, or it's missing some of those components like addressable RGB or tempered glass, and $70 isn't too much to pay for the case. So the P350X is just always my go-to when it's like you have to fit it into the budget. You don't want to spend a lot, but you also want a decent looking case. P350X from Fantex, that's what we're going with here. So as of the time of recording, all of those added up together, the Ryzen 5 2600, the Asus B450 gaming motherboard, the Corsair Vengeance Pro RAM, the Samsung 860 EVO SSD, the Seagate Barracuda terabyte hard drive, the Asus Cerberus 1070 Ti, the Seasonic 550 watt power supply, and the Fantex P350X, that all adds up to a total of $1,047.92. I did say that this was a $1,000 build guide, so if you want to get it under that $1,000 mark, I do have some suggestions of things that you could cut down if you were to so choose. Obviously, you could remove things like the case. You don't necessarily need to spend that much money, but I kind of wanted to retain the aesthetic of the build, especially since we're that close to actually getting it into the budget. So primarily, you could cut down the SSD to 250 gigs. It's going for $52 instead of the $73 that we're paying, so it's going to save you 20 bucks. That's not enough to bring you down to the $1,000 mark. I actually wouldn't highly recommend this one. It just is an option. You could also cut out the hard drive, like I mentioned. That's going to save you $45 and get you down to around $1,003, which isn't too bad. But primarily what I would recommend in this instance, if you have to have it below $1,000, you would cut the motherboard. So the Asus B450 Strix is good looking and it does everything you need it to, but you can spend a little bit less and still get mostly the same performance out of it. There is this Gigabyte B450M Micro ATX, which is going for $70. That's going to save you $60 off the total, bring you under $1,000. The only issue I have with this one is that it is Micro ATX. Finding a B450 in the price range that will bring it below $1,000 and is also full ATX, there were a few, they were mostly not great reviewed ones, so I'd rather go with this Gigabyte one, which has some good reviews on it. But you could also downgrade to a B350. The reason I wouldn't recommend this one as much is because you're gonna get worse RAM support, and it's probably not gonna overclock as well for the Ryzen 5 2600. But there is this ASRock AB350 Pro 4 going for $81.14. Again, that's full ATX. You save $48.85, bringing you just under the $1,000 total. It actually works pretty well at that price point. So that's the AMD build, as you can see on the screen right
right now. This is the full parts list. We'll have links for everything in the description for you guys to check out. They are affiliate links. We will get a kickback if you choose to buy any of these parts, but let's move on to the Intel build. And we didn't change a whole heck of a lot, actually. So for the Intel build, I changed the CPU and the motherboard, which obviously I would have to because they're completely different. So the Intel i5-8400 is still probably the best value Intel chip that you can get right now. It's $220, which makes it a little bit more expensive than the Ryzen 5 2600. But you'll get comparable performance in games. The i5-8400 will likely outperform it in many scenarios, but with the 1070 Ti, and depending on your monitor, you might actually not notice whatsoever the difference there. With the motherboard, I did go with the same style of motherboard, just in the B360 chipset, so it's the Strix B360F gaming, and that's going for $127.37. That's slightly cheaper than the B450 actually by about $1, but we kept everything. The Corsair Vengeance Pro RAM is the same, Samsung 860 EVO is the same hard drive, Asus Cerberus 1070 Ti, Seasonic 550 watt power supply, and the Fantex P350X. But the caveat here is that with all of that added together, with the higher price of that Intel chip, you're looking at $1,095 right there and 30 cents, which makes it nearly 10% higher than the price that we set out to spend, which was $1,000 here. So the things that you would have to cut in order to get it under $1,000 is, one, cut it down to a 250 gig SSD, or you could completely drop the 1 terabyte hard drive. Either way, if you only cut down to the SSD, you have to do the following steps to get it under $1,000. You have to change the motherboard. I chose this MSI B360-A Pro. It's going for $87.71. You save about $40 with this one. Then we chose the EVGA 500 watt 80 plus bronze non-modular power supply. It's only going for $38.37. So you're saving over $30 on the power supply right there. And then we also had to change out the case. This one was the best reviewed one that was pretty decently priced. It doesn't have tempered glass, so you're not going to get to see your components, but that's what it is. This is the Corsair Carbide 200R at $63. That saves you $7 and brings it under $1,000. If you cut the hard drive instead of the SSD, you don't have to change the case, and it's still under $1,000. One of the other cases that you could get that does have tempered glass and RGB is the Fantex P300, but I highly don't recommend that unless you're going for a smaller build, just because it is so difficult to actually build in. It's tight, cramped spaces. The P350X is just the elongated brother of it with some more RGB. It's a better looking case. It's a lot easier to build in. The P300, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless you're going for micro ATX or even ITX, because there's not that much space in it, and even a tiny graphics card would make sense. So i5-8400, Ryzen 5 2600, all the specs for everything else is listed in the video description. As far as performance, what you can expect from this is, as I mentioned, 1080p, around 144 hertz in a lot of titles, 1440p, 60 FPS, not a problem. You can do some light 4K gaming, it'll be around the 30 FPS mark, but when the 1070 Ti is going for $360, that is a great steal. That is totally worth it, and I think right now, December 2018 is a fantastic time to be building a PC. Obviously, there are rumors that AMD is going to announce some of the Ryzen 3000 series chips and also the new Navi cards at CES, and NVIDIA is supposed to announce the RTX 2060 at CES, but all of those necessarily wouldn't fit into this build right here. Maybe the high end of Navi for $250, which would get you the same performance as a 1070 Ti, at least that's the rumor, but they're supposed to be announced, not released, so you still have a while before that's even coming into play, but everything right here is great. The prices here, phenomenal. I'm actually super amped that we did this video because I didn't realize how good prices are at this point. But let me know what you think of the build in the video description, what you think of the parts that I chose. Would you change anything out? What do you prefer? Let me know. Talk in the comments. Do you want us to do more of these regularly? Would you like different price points? Anything and everything that you want to suggest, let us know down in the video description. And don't forget that this video is brought to you by our holiday merch. Check it out at the link in the video description. Don't forget that we have the coupon code JUSTWORKS for you to save 10% off when you're picking one of these puppies up, because you're going to need it to stay all warm and cozy during this winter season. You know it. And with that being said, don't forget to hit the like button. If you enjoyed the video, please get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech related content. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see your smiling faces again in the next video. Love you too. Don't do that, Brett.